All right, we already gave her applause, so this kind of kills my next thing. But we had a pretty divisive decision within our House caucus about who was going to replace someone who had been in the legislature since 1972, and it was close. But in the end, we have a committee on committees that elects our chair people, and then it actually recommends to the caucus, and the caucus selects our chairs. But part of my job as the core leadership team after session got over was to go back out, and the four of us broke up the members, and we did exit interviews after the session was over. And without any exception, the people in the House Democratic Caucus said they couldn't have imagined anyone else but Kelly Linville getting us through this budget fiasco we had last session. So I just want to one more time. Hopefully I can tie this together without any notes here. I do that occasionally. I kind of want to give some perspective about what's going to be happening over the next year. It was actually 14 years ago that I came up here to a similar type meeting, and it was just after the midterm Clinton elections. The Democrats went from a supermajority in the House of Representatives to a superminority in one election overnight back in 1994. I decided after working on a lot of campaigns that I might run for office, and with a lot of the folks helping here, decided to run as a Democrat when it wasn't really popular to be a Democrat back in 1996. Well, the good folks here in the 42nd District returned Kelly Linville to office. With the good folks here in the 40th District, I was able to replace a Republican in the 40th District, and we took back 6 seats that year and went from, I think, 34 up to 40, basically, in the House. We have not, actually, up to this last off-year special election, we have not lost any legislative seats as far as numbers since 1996. Wow. We have the longest-serving majority and the longest-serving Speaker of the House of Representatives in the history of the state of Washington right now, today. And the reason that's happened is because of the good work of Democrats like you, but it's been because of, I think, good stewardship of the state. And I just want to talk a little bit about when I came into office in 1990, elected in 96, sworn in 97. We had a record surplus in the state of Washington. It was boom times back then. The Republicans were in a huge majority still. They didn't need our votes. They had a constitutional majority in the House. And what they decided to do with that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was they went out and they decided to cut worker timber training programs in Whatcom County for people in Deming and Port Angeles and Sequim. And they told them, if you want a job, you should move to Seattle. They went out and they cut social programs left and right and defunded things that really are a safety net for people to access opportunity. And then they went and took $1 billion that we don't have today in revenue and gave it back in the form of property tax relief to the people of the state of Washington, as opposed to sales tax relief, which would have helped the poor the most in the state. The biggest property owners in the state are all the big corporations that own all those tracts of land across, and they're the ones that were the big beneficiaries of that tax break. Well, we slowly clawed back through kind of trench warfare, and we got back to the time, and then we had to deal with Dino Rossi, who was writing the budget for the Senate Republicans at the time, and we fought. We had more investment in higher education. We had more investment back, but it was a constant fight, and we had to do that without revenue. Well, then we got the majority back in the Senate and the House. We came back in 2005, and we did a revenue package for about $500 million. And you know what? We won more seats the next election in the House of Representatives because there were good democratic values and programs that people understood benefited everybody in the state. Since then, we've done all sorts of just tremendous things for the environment, reducing our CO2 footprint, promoting renewable energy. One of the only sectors being hiring right now is in the clean energy sector. If you go look at the Help Wanted ads online, you'll see all these jobs in performance audits and energy efficiency upgrades for buildings, renewable energy. Those are all things that Democrats have passed in the legislature to make happen here today. It's all things that wouldn't have happened without the work of the people here in this room to keep fighting to make sure that we had that majority down in Olympia. And I'm telling you here right now, things like R71 that passed and were affirmed, that was affirming the legislature's action on the ballot box. We are proud to be down there in Olympia Majority to do moving forward on socially progressive issues to make sure everybody gets a fair shake and they're treated equally in the state. Our challenge this session is going to be huge, and we are going to be coming back, I can tell you now, with a revenue package, but it's not a revenue package that's going to take care of a $3 billion problem. It's probably going to be smaller than that, but we're going to need your help to make sure that people understand that these are programs that help people in their everyday lives, to make sure those 10,000 kids in the state still have health care. It's to make sure that people with developmental disabilities have ways to actually contribute to society with the programs that support them to get some training to work and get the self-value of that work. Those are all things that are going to be represented in the things that we're fighting for in revenue, and we're going to make sure that, really, Wall Street's gotten its more than fair share out of what's happened in the last 4 years. And this revenue package is going to be coming out is going to be making sure that everyday people get the fair shake they need by getting access to health care, to education, and to training as they move forward and try to get back in the workplace. So I'm here basically to say that only happens with the people in this room. And when I was here in 1996, there weren't this many people in the room. Matter of fact, this is more people probably the entire Democratic Party in Idaho. We used to run a relief program for the 6 Democrats in the House over there. We'd bring them over to Olympia to come in the room, and some of them would start crying because they'd never been in a room with so many Democrats. But I guess the main message is that people like Kelly and Dave Quallen, myself, and Kevin Ranker, we're going to be down there making some very, very tough choices, but we're also going to be fighting for a little bit of extra revenue to make sure we can do things that are going to help people rejoin the workforce when the economy starts swinging up. And even right now, I'm just going to say this, that all the national economists say Washington State is going to be one of the first 5 states to leave the recession. And that's going to happen because Christine Gregoire had the governor's office, the Democrats are in charge of the Senate, and the Democrats are in charge of the House. The best hope for Washington State are the Democrats in Washington State and democratic values. I want to thank you all for helping us all to move that agenda forward, because we couldn't do it without everybody in this room. So at this time, I'd like to ask Carol Jacobson to come to the front of the room, and she's going to make some awards.